Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is Notestrator, this app that allows you to draw on top of your computer screen. I have been developing that for the past like 20 streams or something. And today we are going to go over the list of things that we took note, the list of things that we know we have to do, and we are going to knock them down for 1 hour. That's the plan for today. So let's get started by showing what the app even is in case you are new here. So it's an app that it lives here on the menu bar, and it allows you to draw on top of your computer screen. It's useful for things like streaming or a Zoom presentation or a Skype presentation or a Microsoft Teams presentation, whatever you are doing online. And well, let's just continue with the features we know we want to have. So we want to be able to reset the drawing. Currently, the way this works is you can draw and you can erase. So if you have multiple lines, you can erase the lines, but there is no way for you to reset and erase all the lines at once. Let's go ahead and implement this. We are gonna need a new button on the menu. So let's go to the menu, actually to the end of the menu. It may be easier if I go from bottom up. And here is the end of the menu. So how about we just add another one of these buttons? And then this is not going to be hide menu, it's going to be reset drawing. We have worked on styling the menu so it looks okay, and as you saw a couple minutes ago, it does look okay. Oops. It does look okay, but we added so many new features and the menu is all over the place at this point, so it is what it is. Let's replace all these hide menus with reset and drawing. Single dash, I think that makes sense. And then let's think about an icon for this. At this point anything goes, because we have so many icons they don't mean anything anymore, so we're probably gonna do something else. Maybe just labels and icons or something, but let's pick an icon that kind of makes sense for resetting. A toilet? Power off? No. It is more like erase. Yeah, something like this, I guess. And then how about we assign the delete key to that? What is the symbol for delete? I guess this is the symbol for delete. Erase to the left. I guess that's the symbol. I don't know. And then let's go over the implementation of this. So when you click the button, it sends a reset drawing message to the IPC main, so the main process. And if you hit, I guess, delete, but I don't know. We need to look at the documentation for Electron.js and try to find in there accelerators. Oh, I don't know how to spell accelerator. And then look for delete. Yes, it is delete. Well, I guess we don't want delete because I'm not really sure. I think what we want is backspace. On a Mac, there is the concept of backspacing and deleting. One goes backwards and one goes forward, and I think that the one we want is backspace. Well, and that is going to find this button and click on it, But then what does the implementation on the main process actually do? I suppose it needs to go down to the drawing window. So this one needs to go down to the drawing window. So what we can do is go to the drawing window and execute some JavaScript in there. And the JavaScript that we want to execute is to find the drawing. So find the drawing, and then in the drawing, to reset the SVG, in case you are just joining me now, I wrote not only the menu management and the Electron app, but we are also writing here on the stream the whole drawing engine, and it's based on SVGs, and it's using the DOM to store the drawing. So that's different from almost every other drawing engine, and that's why I wanted to build my own, because I thought it would be fun, and also because I want to prove a point that you can have DOM operations. So to manipulate the SVG, we use DOM operations, and they are fast enough to do drawing in real time. And then people say, oh, you need a virtual DOM, you need React because the DOM is slow. Yeah, it is. It may not be as fast as the virtual DOM in every case, but it is okay. It is reasonably fast. And you can watch talks about the virtual DOM and Svelte and React, and there is a whole conversation to be had. But in any case, what we want is to we want to get a hold of the drawing, and then in the drawing we want to find the highlighter. There are these two layers, I want to say, to the drawing, the pen and the highlighter, and the pen is always above the highlighter, and we have different tools for pen and highlighter, so we want to erase both of these groups. So the way we are going to do that is by finding the highlighter and then finding the pen group or the layers, and we want to erase all the contents of the layers. And at this point, I'm not really sure I know how to remove all the children of a DOM element. So HTML DOM remove all children. Option 1, clearing inner HTML, clearing text content, looping to remove every last child, looping to remove last element child, and clear children monkey patch. I think use modern JavaScript with remove. Yeah, but then we have to loop. Oh, okay, there is a replace children API. Okay, so we are going to say replace children with no argument, and that is going to erase the materials in the layers. Let's see if this works. So I have some drawing, and then I click on this, and the whole drawing goes away. That worked. That is awesome. And then, can you tell that the highlighter is always behind? I guess if I put it on a different color, then you will be able to tell that the highlighter is always behind. So between the highlighter, whatever was latest is on top. Maybe you can tell that here. And between the pen whatever is the latest is on top. I guess that is pretty evident in this case. But within, between the layers, the pen is always on top of the marker. So that's why we have this concept of two layers going on. And I think we did it. I think we implemented reset drawing. Let's just test that I'm resetting the highlighter and the pen correctly. So I'll have something with the pen and something with the highlighter. And then when I erase, they all go away. Excellent. Next, that's gonna be interesting. Undo and redo support. That is going to be fun. Because I'm going to start this from the menu. So I have, oh, and I did not test if delete was actually erasing the drawing. So let me test this out. Yes. Oh, that's interesting. It is throwing an error after the first one. Do you think that if I just start the app and hit delete, if the error is going to happen? Yes, the error seems to happen, but not on the first try, on the second try. That's weird. I hit delete once and no error, and then twice, and then there is an error. And then if I draw and hit delete, it doesn't work anymore. Hang in there a minute, I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. So where are we? Well, we are trying to find why this is failing. So maybe we can comment out the thing that actually resets the window and see if the mistake is still happening, if the error is still happening. I don't think it is. Yeah, the mistake is in this part. So what is the issue here? Well, we can always execute JavaScript, I suppose. So I don't think that the error is on these lines. And it's not. And I guess we can always find the drawing. So I don't think that the error is in this part either. Oh, the error is on this part. That's weird. Can we even find the drawing? Is this okay? I think this should be okay. No? It says an object could not be cloned. What's that about? Is execute JavaScript trying to return whatever was returned from this? Promise that resolved with the result of the executed code. Okay, so this is trying to return something and it fails to return that something because it's not serializable. So maybe if I put my code in a function that will ignore, I have no returns on this function, so this will return void. Maybe this will work. Yeah, I don't get any errors anymore, and if I draw and hit delete, it is deleting my drawing. So there you go. Interesting error. I wonder why it didn't happen the first try, but I don't know. It's one of those things. So we fixed it. All right, let's go to undo redo. I guess undo redo, I want to start with the buttons, and then we will work our way into actually implementing it into the drawing. And the implementation, I think, is going to be fun. I have a rough idea of how to do it, but I don't know exactly how to do it. All right, so now we'll have a button that is going to be the undo button. And I guess I can replace all occurrences of reset drawing here. This will be the undo button. Now we need to find an icon for this guy. And I suppose there will be an undo icon. And then is there a redo icon? All right, okay. Undo. And there are two alternatives, and I think I prefer the second, so I'll go with this one. So this will be the icon for that, and I will have as a shortcut Command Z. And then how does this work? Well, we need to send the undo event to the main process. And then if you hit Command Z, that will find the undo button and click on it. And then here we need to send something into the drawing process. And I believe it makes more sense to implement, we could implement the logic for undo, redo, or try to implement the logic over here, but I think it belongs on the drawing itself. So we'll have a function there called undo, and we'll just call that function. And of course, when we run this, it will not work, but let's see what it looks like. Oh, I can barely see the button, so I guess we need to go to where this window is defined. We can search for this, and then the height of width large is no longer enough. Let's go to our design system, see what's next on the scale. Width large, we have extra large. IDDQD sound, hey, it's nice to have you here. Hey Leandro, when if you get a chance, can you show me your hotkey process for how to push commits to GitHub while scripting? Okay, I can do it right now. I can show you. Yeah, you are asking me about my process. So I'm going to show you the way that I do it, which is not the way that I showed you how to do it. So we had a stream together and I showed you how to use Git. And I used this app that I don't even have installed here because I don't use it myself. It's called GitHub Desktop. And it is the easiest way to get started, but I don't find to be the most efficient way to use it when you are in the editor, in the zone, because it's a different app. You have to switch to a different app and then come back. And you can make the argument that I'm switching to Safari and then back, but it's a different thing. So in Visual Studio Code, there is, if you have a project that has Git enabled, which is the case here in the Notestrator app, and it's also the case on your machine, on your Reaper scripts, We already initialized Git using GitHub Desktop, but you can also initialize Git using Visual Studio Code. I do everything in Visual Studio Code, and some things from the command line, but you don't need to go to the command line to do the basics. So the way that I do it is I use Visual Studio Code and I open the project, which is like a file or a folder, mainly a folder. The folder where my project is, and in my case it's the Notestrator app, so it's the Notestrator folder, but in your case it will be like under your Reaper configuration there will be a folder that is your scripts folder, and it will have the Git directory in there. You can hit Command-Shift-Dot to see the hidden directories, including the .git directory. So you open that directory, and then this bar below here turns blue. It's usually, if you don't have any project open, it is purple. But if you open a project, for instance, I can open another project of mine, Kasha, and then it turns blue, and that's how you know that you did the right thing. And then you come here to source control, and it takes a moment to initialize, but yeah, so it gives you the same view as GitHub Desktop gives you, pretty much the same thing. So let's do this here on Notestrator. I learned the keyboard shortcut for this. You can see that it is Control-Shift-G. So I don't typically click on the button, I just Control-Shift-G, and then I can see my changes. And it's Control, it really is Control, it's not Command, not even on a Mac. So you can see your changes. In most cases you just want to review if there's nothing too goofy going on. And then you can write your message here. Typically my messages are like just a space, because Git doesn't like empty commit message, so I just put a space there, and then I hit Command return, which creates a commit. So you see me doing this when I change, for instance, this. So we are going from large to extra large. So we are going from 32 to 36 RAMs, and each RAM is 16 pixels. So we are going to 576. So I change the value, and then this is how it goes in real time, and I'm done. Oh, and Command B toggles this sidebar. So I usually go, I know that I like all my changes, I don't want to really review all of them, so I just Control-Shift-G, hit a space, and Command return and Command B, and I am done. That's what I do 100 times a day. Okay, let's see if this is enough space for our buttons to fit. Yes, our buttons fit. So now we hit Command Z and we get an error saying that the script didn't execute correctly on the drawing window, I suppose. So let's see. I will go to my drawing window, and in there I will look for my drawing. There it is. And in here I can define this undo to be a function that doesn't receive any arguments, and that will maybe just alert undo. So now when I click here, I see undo on the screen. So all the wiring of the windows and everything is correct. So at this point we can actually implement the undo feature. Well, to be able to undo, I need to remember the previous states. So I guess there are multiple ways of doing this. What is changing? What is the undo points in time? You can think of this as a timeline. You actually can think of this as similar to a timeline that Git gives you. So that's another thing you may want to learn. You say that line 64 is missing a close bracket. Not really, because my div has so many. Usually you would write a div, let me show. if you are writing HTML, usually you write a div like this, right? But sometimes you want to give it some attributes. So you say things like class hello, right? And that's all fine and good, but I have so many of these attributes, and some of them are so long, like this is an attribute. So they become so long that it wraps to multiple lines. But that's all right. It still means the same thing, and these spaces are ignored. So in fact, I am not missing the closing bracket. It's right here. But I can see where the confusion comes from. And it's not intuitive at first. But in any case, so the undo stack, or the undo feature, works like this. So we have a timeline, and anytime that we make a change, we need to add something to this timeline. And then when we want to undo, we need to traverse this timeline. So first of all, we need a data structure to represent this timeline. So I'll call this the undo stack, and it starts empty. There is nothing on the undo stack. Then anytime that we change something about the drawing, so maybe we drew a line or we erased a line, I guess the way this is going to work out is anytime you take out your cursor, I don't want to create an undo stack for every movement of your cursor. So when you are drawing, I don't want to create an undo stack. I did not release my mouse. So I don't want to create an undo point here and here and here and here and on each one of these little pixels that I'm drawing. No, I want to create an undo point when I release the mouse. So I guess I can try to go there. It's probably gonna be something like on mouse up, and then we have an event listener for on mouse up, and we do a bunch of things. And I guess we can just tag along and do one more thing over here. So on mouse up, we are gonna say this closest drawing. So this is me just finding this drawing div again. And then I'll have my undo stack, and I will push to my undo stack. I guess what I can push is the whole SVG. So I'll just say this closest SVG, that finds the SVG. Let me make sure that this makes sense. Oh, the SVG is the thing that I am on right now. So I am in the SVG, so I don't need to say this closest SVG. It would work, but it's superfluous. But what I do need to do is to clone this, because I want to have a pristine, unique, immutable copy of the SVG. So what I am going to do is clone node and true. I think that's how you do it. Let me find the docs for clone node. And I want it to be deep, so I have to say true. So this gives me a fresh copy of the SVG, so I push that into the undo stack. And I believe this is enough for me to remember all my points when I am drawing. So I have my undo, I have stuff on my undo stack. And then when I actually want to undo, what I do is I get my SVG by saying undo stack pop. That's how this works, right? If I have my undo stack empty undo stack push some SVG and then some SVG2 and SVG3, and these strings are just representing the whole SVG, the cloning that I'm doing. And then I'll have an undo stack that looks like this, and then I say SVG equals undo stack pop, and then SVG is my SVG3, the latest one, and my undo stack does not have the SVG3 in there anymore. All right, so that's exactly what I need. And then I will find this query selector SVG and then replace with the SVG that is coming in. Now, I'm not sure that this replace method even works, even exists. It may be replace node or something. Replace with replaces this element in the children list if its parent with the node. So it's replace with that I want. Let's run the app. And we can draw. It did not break that. And when we try to undo, it blows up. And then it tells me to go to the render process, I guess. Same thing it said before. Check the renderer console for the error. So the renderer in question must be the drawing window. I have two windows, the menu, but the menu is probably not at fault here. So probably there is some error here on the drawing window. And I don't know how to show the console. Maybe I can Google this. I always forget. Electron Dev Console. That's what I need to do. So I can say drawing web contents open dev tools. And then the window will not be transparent, but that's all right. We can still draw on it, and we can still hit undo. And then we can go to the console and we can read the error. Undo stack is not defined. That's all right. I think I know how to fix it. So let's look for undo stack. And I need to say this undo stack here, and that's probably it. That was probably the extent of my mistake. Yeah, all right. Oh, not all right. Cannot read property undo stack of null. Then I have some undefined going on here. It shows undefined on the corner. That cannot be good. Oh no, I closed Visual Studio Code by accident and trying to close the app. Where am I using the undo stack? Yeah, I'm using it over here as well, so it needs to be attached to the drawing itself. So let's do this step by step maybe. We'll try to look at the undo stack and see what it looks like after drawing a little bit, just to see if that makes sense. So to begin with, my undo stack should be empty. Let me go to my drawing, and then let's open a console and say my drawing undo stack. It's empty. Then I draw something, and it has weird colors and everything, probably because I am showing the DevTools, so my window is no longer transparent. That's all right. So now I have an SVG here. And then when I hit undo the first time, my undo stack is empty, and my SVG should be the one, the original one, but it's not. I can tell because the line is still there. Oh. If I just keep hitting undo, then I will try to undo on an empty stack. And then I closed Visual Studio Code again by accident. When the DevTools are open, it's hard to tell where my focus is, so I end up closing Visual Studio Code as opposed to my app. Okay, so what happens when I pop from an empty stack? I get undefined back. So I can say if svg is undefined, return, in other words, stop the execution of the function so I don't get to this line and I don't make the error happen. There is another problem here actually. The problem is that to begin with, my undo stack is empty, and it shouldn't be empty. The undo stack should be the original drawing. So I'm going to say this query selector of my SVG clone node true. That's what I wrote before, right? Yes, it is. You can see that there are two occurrences. So that means that there are two occurrences of this text on the file, which means this is what I wrote before. So the undo stack starts with just the initial state, and then I can undo, except that when I cannot, I stop. I don't try to undo. So now we draw something, and this is now showing correctly. It's not showing a faint line like it was before. And then I can undo, 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 undo. It's all right. I think it, yeah, the undo stack is now null. Why? It's undefined. Why would that be? Oh, because I said this. Undo stack. Alright, so then it becomes empty. I don't want this to ever become empty, do I? Okay, let's restart this and reason about the undo stack for a moment. So I draw something, and now the undo stack has two elements, the initial one and then this element. When I hit undo, I guess what I have here is off by one mistake, because when I hit undo the first time, I am popping from the stack the latest version. And then I don't see any changes. And then I do it again, and I pop the original version. And that's alright, but then the undo stack becomes empty. So what I want what do I want? Maybe the logic is wrong. Maybe I shouldn't push to the undo stack when I am done drawing. Maybe I should do it when I start drawing. Okay, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this, so let's do this in small steps. To begin with, the undo stack is, it has the original drawing, and that is absolutely a requirement because I want to be able to come back to this point in time. Then, when do I want to push to the undo stack? I have, I guess, two options. I can push to it when I start drawing, so when I when I press the cursor, or when I stop drawing. Does it make any difference to do one or the other? I'm tempted to say no, because you cannot even try to undo in the middle of drawing. I mean, I guess you can with a keyboard shortcut, but that's not reason about that because it becomes too difficult. So I don't think it makes any difference to store this on the beginning or the end. I guess the root of my problem here is that I am trying to store the current stage that you see on the screen. When the app starts, the undo stack already has some material, and that material is whatever is on the screen. And same for when I push to the undo stack. So maybe the solution is to have an empty undo stack to begin with, and when I start drawing, I will push the previous version. Before I start modifying it, I push that to the undo stack. So let's see how that would work out. So on mouse down, this means I am about to change the drawing. And then what do I do here? Well, I don't want to do this on any mouse down. I only want to do it when I am going to change. So when I am going to to change the drawing. So when I have the pen or the highlighter or the eraser. But those are the only possibilities, right? If I am clicking on the screen, I am about to do something. Except that I may have the eraser on and I may not hit any lines, and then I will have the mouse down, but I will not be modifying anything. But yeah, let's just try this real quick. So if I push to the undo stack on mouse down, then I believe this will work out, because I am pushing to the undo stack the previous version right before I start modifying it. GSPT 4760 says, hi, how are you doing? Hi, GSPT 4760, I'm doing good, and you? What we are doing right now is to implement undo redo in Notestrator, the drawing app that I have been developing. So now let's try this out. So the undo stack is empty to begin with. I draw something and my previous version is on the undo stack, so I undo and it goes away. And then I start drawing and then it complains about the undo stack being null, but that's a problem for another day. How do I quit my app? I guess I can do this. Okay. I like these changes. They're not perfect, but I like them. I don't want to commit this change. So now, Aria, this is something else that I did not teach you before, but it's something that you can do. So I have plenty of changes here and I don't want all of them. This is just for development, so I'm not committing this. But what I can do is select the things that I do care about and stage. This is saying I want this to be part of the next commit. And then the same for this line. I am staging this. So these things are going to go into the next commit and this change will not. You can see that there are two places where the same file appears. These are the changes that will not appear in the next commit. These are the changes that will appear on the next commit. All right, so let's figure out why we are getting that null error. So we draw something and we undo. Now the undo stack is empty. But that should not be a problem, because when I undo, it will do something like pop, and it will be undefined, and it will stop. But when I say undo, well, the error is no longer happening. Oh, it's when I try to draw again that the error happens. And it cannot read the property undo stack of null. I think I know what the issue is. And the issue is annoying, and I don't want to have to deal with it, but I think I know what the issue is. Okay, so let's see if I have any leftovers. No. So I think that the issue is with my clone node situation. When I replace with this cloned node, it has a hard time finding this. So what if I don't clone node of the SVG, but only of the SVG contents? Yes, I guess that could work. So let's see everywhere where we have the undo stack going on, particularly where we push to the undo stack. So instead of cloning node of instead of cloning the whole SVG, how about we look at its children? So I forget how to do that. Let's go here to a browser and get a DOM node, and then can we say children nodes and just children, and that's an HTML collection. So I think that is okay. So we can just say this children, and now I'm pushing the children of the SVG to the undo stack. And then when I pop, I don't get the SVG, I get the children of the SVG. So I guess that is my drawing. How do I want to call this? Maybe the SVG children, maybe the undo point. Well, I want to replace this. Oh, I want to replace children, right? Of the SVG now. And there is this function we just learned about called replace children. So that's the one we are going to use. So we are not going to replace with, we are going to replace children. And then the SVG is always going to be the same. But then we have to rename this variable because it's misleading. So how do we call this? SVG children, I guess, for the lack of a better name. Let's see if this works. This children is not a function. Alright, it's not. This children is not a function. So let me explain again what I think the issue even was. I was pushing the whole SVG onto the undo stack and I was replacing the whole SVG. The problem is that the SVG has some behavior attached to it. And then this behavior was attached when the SVG was initially created, which means that it would try to find the closest drawing on this is representing the SVG as it was first attached to the DOM, not when it was detached and put into the undo stack and reattached with replace with. So it seems like when you replace the thing, you don't necessarily get the element behaving the same way with respect to the context in which the element is. That's kind of a weird explanation of a weird issue, but I think that was the issue. So I think that this is going to work out now. Yeah, I can undo, and no. Cannot read property. The error is different. It says insert adjacent HTML. Well, this is not good. Again, the problem is that the SVG is not able to find the children because the children have been reattached in a weird way. So as a last resort, how about instead of getting the children, I just get the inner HTML. This gives me a textual representation. Now this is no longer a DOM node. It is literally just a string that represents the SVG contents. And now I can rename this to SVG inner HTML. And then instead of replace children, I say inner HTML. And that's heavy-handed, but I think this must work. This is my last resort. So I can draw, I can undo, and I can draw again, and I can do, and I can draw. And when I draw, check this out. This is what the undo stack looks like. See, it has some text in there, and this text is literally the text of the whole drawing. And I was trying to avoid this because this is the slowest of all the options I experimented with. We are literally serializing all the DOM nodes into a string, and then when we want to undo, we are deserializing stuff. So, oh, I now know why this was a faint line before. It was because I had to do something like $0, and when I say 0, I activate the shortcut for the stroke to be white. Check this out. I can type 1 and it becomes red again. See? And then I can type stuff and it's sending keyboard shortcuts to the window. That's alright. Okay, so we figured this out. Our undo stack is literally the contents of the SVG as a string, which is heavy-handed, but hey, it works. So get off my back. And I maintain what I said before. I think that even with this naive approach to the undo stack, I think it will be still fast enough and you won't be able to tell that the app is sluggish. I don't think. I mean, my computer is kind of old and it's streaming and I'm developing and it's still handling the drawing just fine. Alright, so weird DOM issues are over. Now let's think about the redo. We have undo. Let's think about redo. And I suppose that we will have an icon for redo alt. Yes. So what do we use for a keyboard shortcut? I guess we use Shift Command Z. That's what apps usually use. So that's going to be our thing as well. So Shift Command Z. It's weird how we usually say Command Shift Z, or at least I do, Command Shift Z, but we write Shift Command Z, which I guess makes sense because if you go from left to right, that's how you type this. I guess that's why. Unless you are right-handed when you are doing keyboard shortcuts. Alright, so we can now go to the implementation of undo and we'll do a similar trick. But before, IDQD Sound says, I thought undo and redo would be pre-written bits of code, but is it something you have to code per app based on factories? Yes, well, some of the things are pre-written and some of the things you have to write by hand. For instance, the fact that you have an undo redo here on the edit menu, you can take for granted. I think that in Electron there is even something, a first-class citizen for, it's not just any keyboard press that happened. No, it's a special thing, it's a special event that has to do with undo. So the handling of the handling of the event, I want to undo something now, that is an operating system thing. And then there are menu items that can be special in that way. They can be special to have a role of undo and redo and copy and paste and so forth. So most of the things in here, they have this special meaning and there are special ways to trigger this. We are doing everything manually in the app because it's simpler conceptually. Maybe we will revisit this, I don't know. But in any case, there is a special thing to say to your app, I want to undo now. But how you actually undo in the app is something that you have to figure out yourself. Because what does it even mean to undo? Maybe you have a text processor and to undo is to remove some text. But how much text do you remove? See, the last thing I did here on my editor was to write Shift plus. So when I hit undo, do I remove the plus or do I remove Shift plus? It seems like Visual Studio Code likes to remove Shift plus, but to remove just the plus and then just the T and then just the F would also be reasonable. Or maybe undo is going to say revert all my Git changes to my previous commit, which is something you can do as well. So it depends on your app what it means to undo and redo. So that part needs to be implemented. In fact, I can bring you to a Reaper example that you'll probably be familiar. So when you're writing Reaper scripts, you need to say to Reaper, this is the beginning of my undo, so do the push to the undo stack that I just did manually. So that's what you're doing when you say begin of undo. And then when you have to also say, this is the end of my undo point. So effectively what you're saying is collect all the changes that happened between these 2 points and then create an undo point for me. And in Reaper you can mess this up, and then your undo doesn't work well. Even in a Reaper script, you can mess up the undo stack. And there are all sorts of weird manipulations you can do to the undo stack in Reaper. So you kind of have access to the undo stack, but I'm not sure you can traverse. You had this idea, remember you writing to me that you had this idea to have a visualizer and a filter for the undo stack, which is something like, I think Adobe products have something like that. I'm not sure you have access to that level of detail on the undo stack. But I know that in Reaper you have to be careful, and in any app you write, you have to be careful about what it means to undo and how you can undo and redo. So in any case, now we have that undo, that redo thing that we'll try to call the redo method here. And I guess we also will need a redo stack. It will also start empty. So if you have, if you are going to undo, so again, we need to think about how we populate the redo stack and how we use the redo stack. To begin with, let's just check that I wired everything correctly. Yeah, so I wired everything correctly, so we have a redo stack. How do we populate the redo stack? Well, I suppose that when you undo, right before you are actually going to undo stuff, you push to the redo stack your current state. So So that's what I'm doing right now. I extracted this into a variable, and then I can push to my redo stack the inner HTML of my current SVG right before I am about to ruin everything. So maybe we'll call this the undo SVG inner HTML. Undo SVG inner HTML. That's what we are popping from the stack. If it's undefined, stop right then and there. Otherwise, continue. And to continue, you're going to get a hold of the SVG. You are going to push to the redo stack its current state, and you are going to change its current state. Then we'll have stuff on the redo stack. Now we do a similar trick. So I guess I will rename this to be the redo SVG inner HTML, and of course I will want to touch the redo stack. If it's undefined, then stop, I have nothing to redo. Otherwise, take the current state of my SVG, put it on the undo stack, and then actually perform the redo. Let's see how this works out. So I can draw a line, and I can draw a second line, and then I can undo, and I can redo, and I can undo twice, and I can redo twice, and then I can undo some more and redo some more, and I am happy. The keyboard shortcuts work as well, so we have undo and redo. Next, we have to think about a weird case, so I'm going to commit what I have. C area. Quick. I just hope that I didn't commit anything silly. So I'm going to go to my Git graph and look at my latest changes. This is my latest change. All right, that makes sense. So next, what I want is to deal with a weird case, which is I do something. So my undo stack now has an element. And then I undo. So now my redo stack has an element. And then I draw something else. So at this point, my redo stack should be empty. I should erase the contents of my redo stack because the history has diverged. In fact, if I try to redo, I will lose this line. See, I lost that line. That's not what I want. So anytime I push to the undo stack, so right here, as I'm about to push to the undo stack, I want to do something else. I want to erase the contents of the redo stack. So at this point, I think it makes sense to have a method for this. So create undo point is going to be a function that does something similar to that. So this dot undo stack, and then this query selector SVG. Because I'm moving the function around, I have to change the selectors as well. Oh, and I must call this function, right? So let me find this part, and I will say closest drawing create undo point. That will go to the drawing and create an undo point, and this is going to take the undo stack and push this query selector SVG inner HTML, and this redo stack push, not push. How do I truncate an array? So let me look for JavaScript truncate array. No, not slice. Maybe reset array. Splice, pop. I don't like any of these. I'll just say length is 0. And that will erase the redo stack. And now, because I am doing things in this manner, I think it makes sense to have my redo stack right here. So this now applies to the whole thing. Not that it wouldn't work, it would, but I think it reads better this way. So now I can say this create undo point, and then actually undo, and then actually redo. So all the operations to handle the undo and redo stack are here in a single place. And that's how I like to have my code. So I can draw 2 lines, and I can undo, and I can redo, and I can undo and redo. And then when I undo, I can draw a new line, and if I try to redo, nothing happens. And when I try to undo and redo and undo twice and redo twice, and we got this. Let's commit this final thing. Anything surprising? Nothing surprising. Also, let me go to my README and knock this off the list. I commit so often that sometimes Visual Studio Code hasn't even picked up the change before I start trying to commit it. And that is our show today. Thank you all for being here. I hope you all have a great weekend, and thanks for supporting me on this channel by subscribing, going to PayPal and Patreon. And yeah, I hope you all have a good weekend. On Monday, I'll be back and I'll be working on Notestrator, and we'll continue to knock down. So let's see what we have here to knock down. we can do another styling pass on the menu. Isn't that fun? The menu is all over the place. Not the entire thing, but yeah, this part is all over the place. So we will work on that on Monday. I see you all then, and have a great weekend. Bye.